Welcome to this week's tutorial. Spring is just around the corner, so close. And I wanted to get out in nature with my kid, and I also have a niece who's super into nature and natural things, and I decided we needed some nice working plant presses so that we can go out and collect specimens ethically and sustainably and press them. So you will need additional supplies for this project. I linked everything that I used in the comments here. You're welcome to do different things, but if you use the products that I've linked in the comments, in the description, then this should all work perfectly well for you. Okay, let's dive in. So we're going to come to our little shape tool here. It may be something, in any of these, so just click and hold until it pops up, and we're going to use the rectangle tool. Now I'm going to make a pretty small travel one, so geared towards smaller plants and also 6-year-old hands instead of adult hands. So I'm going to go ahead and do an 8-inch wide by 6-inch high rectangle. Okay. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so it's centered for us. Do you see these little, first let's go ahead and remove the fill. Right now it's got a white fill. We want to come over and select the none fill, which has that red slash through it. Okay. And now we're going to use this little dial and just round those corners off. Okay, I like about a 0.3 rounding, but you can do whatever works for you is fine. Okay, so 0.3 inch round, and here we are. Now the bolts and wing nut sets that I got are 1/4 inch. So I'm going to come down to the rectangle tool, use the ellipse tool, and actually do, instead of 0.25 inch, 1/4 inch, I'm going to do 0.26, and that just gives us a little extra room. Again, I'm using this with kids. I don't want them to have to hand twist the bolts in. And when I did a test on a different plant press that's actually going to be mine, I did 0.25 thinking that the kerf of the laser, in other words, the part that burns away, would give me plenty of room. And it works, but you do have to turn it through. So I like this 0.26 by 0.26 size, but just so that you kind of know and so you can make your own decision. Now, before we go any further and I place this, I'm going to just turn on the grid and turn on Snap to Grid. So go to View, Show Grid, View, Snap to Grid, and that Snap to Grid just means that when we use the arrow keys to move, it'll move it a full grid line, which is 1/8 of an inch at a time. And in fact, we need to grab our rounded rectangle and just make sure it's right on a grid line, okay? And I usually pick 2 intersecting thicker grid lines, so the 1-inch marks, as the edges, just so that I have it just helps me visualize things a lot better. So when you're placing the holes here, this is where the bolts will go through and tighten to provide the pressure that actually flattens the plants. Okay, so you don't want it too close to the edge because then it'll break. And you don't want it too far in because then you're really reducing your usable plant press space. Okay, so I find for a plant press this size, about 3/8 of an inch in from the, 5/8 of an inch in from the corners works really well. Okay, so you can do that if you want by starting out here, so that at the edge, and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but then you'll notice you're a whole inch away from here. Luckily, we know, let's zoom in, we know that each of these little lines is 1/8 of an inch. So we just need to go up, up, up. So 3. Okay, so if you want an easier way to do that, you can start here and go in 3 and up 3. Okay. But just 1/2 inch or 5/8 of an inch from the edge, and you should be in good shape. Then you're going to copy and paste and do the same thing with the other corners, and I will help you check to make sure that they're perfectly aligned in just a minute. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, because if you look at this, at least to me, visually, this does not look lined up. I think it is, but I just always like to double check. Okay, and in fact, the first test one that I made of this, they weren't aligned, and so it was good that I checked. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, to check, we're going to select 2 of these. So you can click and drag across and kind of zoom in a little. And if you have 1/8 of an inch, so let me just show you what it would look like if it was off, okay? You'd be able to see this big gap here, okay? We don't want that gap. So let's move it back. You can click and drag and see that there is no gap, and so it's nice and aligned. Do the same thing for these. Again, you're looking for a big gap, so you don't need to kind of take too much time to check it. And assuming that you check all of the adjacent circles and they're all in good shape, you're good to go. You could actually save this as an SVG right now, cut 2 of them, and that's your plant press. Of course, I'm going to be a little bit, I'm going to take it a little step further and just put her name on it. So this one is for my niece, and so I'm going to do her name on it. Vivian's Plant Press is what it's going to say. And I'm going to use Nora font. I think it's like a nice kind of vintagey, herbally sort of font, but you can use whatever font you like. I think about a size 75 font is good. Yeah, I like that. And then I'm going to do a separate text box with Plant Press. I'm doing a separate text box because I want to be able to manipulate them in relation to one another. Okay, and if you did it all in one, you'd have to use it all as the same unit. Okay, let's go ahead and create our outlines. The Glowforge does not read text just like this. You have to create outlines. So right click, create outlines. If you're using a script font, remember to come on over to Pathfinder and click to unite. If you don't have your Pathfinder panel, click Window Pathfinder and it'll pull it up. Repeat it with your Plant Press one. I'm going to get them vertically the right distance apart, and then I'm going to select both of these, so you can click and drag to select. You see that it went right through the middle, and so it selected this too. Okay, so you can also just click, hold down Shift, and click the next one. I'm going to use the Align panel to horizontally align them centered. If you don't have this this panel, it's Object Align. Okay, and then I'm going to Object Group because I like that in relation to the words in relation to each other. Now I'm going to select all 4 of my circles, and I'm just clicking the first one, holding down Shift as I click all of the rest. And this outer thing, this outer rounded rectangle, I'm going to object group that as well. Why? Because now I'm going to select all, and horizontal align center, vertical align center, and we know that it's all perfectly aligned. Okay? Now, here's what I will do for this one. I'm going to just move it out of the way. All of it, I made sure to select everything. And then I'm going to copy, paste, move it right next to it. And then I'm going to delete the Vivian's Plant Press part because I want the top piece to have her name engraved. I don't want the bottom piece to. I'm okay with that part being plain. Okay? So at this point, you have lovely 6x8 plant press. Again, you will need those other materials. We're going to use bolts and wing nuts. We're going to use blotting paper, corrugated cardboard, so you can do lots and lots of layers, but allow airflow in, and some natural wax paper. So again, I'll link it all in the description. I'll give you some instructions on how to put it all together. And if you make a plant press, please send me pictures. I would love to see it and also to share it on my Instagram and my Facebook page. Let's see here. That's all for this week. I'll go ahead and show you how to save. Let's see. So I always just regular save first as an Adobe Illustrator file. Vivian Plant Press. Okay, and that's so I have an easily editable format for later if I decide to come back and do a different one. And then file save as. It's important you save as and don't export. Pop down to the SVG, hit save. You're looking for an SVG 1.0 and make sure responsiveness is off so that it stays the same size when you put it into the Glowforge app. You are ready to go. I hope you love it. See you next week.